Welcome to Just Effing Vote. I am one of your hosts, Lucas Duguid.
And I'm Miles Hosie.
We're thrilled that you could join us today. What we're doing here, what we're hoping to accomplish with this segment is learning. This is an educational piece. This is a reoccurring opportunity for us to answer questions that you may have around what's preventing you from voting. If you've never been to the ballot box, if this is your first time, this could be very exciting. We're going to be bringing you local experts, people who are going to be answering some of these questions today. One of our local experts, our first local expert today, a very old friend of mine, a good friend of mine, professor of justice studies at Mohawk College, resident of Paris, Marc Laferriere.
Hi guys, how are you?
Excellent. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for doing this. I think this is a great opportunity for people to understand the political process. And you know what? A lot of times people don't vote because they're afraid they don't understand the process.
Absolutely right.
So this is great. You know that ignorance is not an option. So if you're watching this, you're going to get enough information to make some informed opinion. Whatever your opinion becomes, that's great. That needs to happen.
And you know what? We have such a huge amount of stuff to cover in such a short period of time. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention this is a nonpartisan effort. We don't care who you vote for. We just want you to vote. You're going to hear that a lot. We're going to emphasize that a lot. We don't care who you vote for. Please just vote. We're going to dive right in on a topic that's come up quite a lot. I know it's near and dear to your heart. It's transportation. So for our purposes here today, how is a vote in an upcoming election, say in the provincial election, can you steer us into how this could affect transportation and how this could affect some of the voters at home?
Sure. Well, I think every political party is going to have a platform on transit and transportation. Now, what people in this community want to look at is how much of it is focused on Toronto and Toronto transit systems, which is important, and how much is about connecting above and beyond that, and how much of it's, say, something like rural transit. And we have to deal with that issue here in Brantford and Brant. We have a transit system in the city of Brantford. That's great. We have GO access, which is wonderful. But if you look at the county, which is the circle around the city, and Six Nations and New Credit, there's either no or very, very limited public transit options. So when we're talking public transit, we mean things like buses, something that would connect people to the city, to GO, possibly to Norfolk, which has its own bus line, or even Waterloo, that has its own bus line. And right now, as it stands, a lot of folks in this area have to go all the way to Toronto in order to get a bus connection to somewhere like Kitchener. Could that change? Well, if we access public transit in the right way and the funding and dollars for that, yeah, it possibly could.
So everybody's talking about this right now, but we have to really emphasize that point that you have to make a choice when you go to that to vote, and when you have your say, you are actually you're helping impact change.
Well, if you think it's an important issue for you, then you have to ask your candidates about it. You have to make sure that these questions about this subject are part of debates, are part of official statements, and of course are part of a platform in a provincial election. I come at this also from a municipal side. Recently, we had myself and a large group of volunteers, civic volunteers, all different ages, and some county staff, some city staff, and some elected councillors all worked together on a transit task force, which has gotten through first stage transit studies to show that transit is feasible for the county of Brant. So that's like Paris, Scotland, St. George, Burford, that area, that could connect to Brantford and possibly Norfolk. And now we've gotten approval to move on to stage 2, which would be the actual planning of routes, where there'd be some options for county councillors to vote on. Now, when we talk about provincial and federal ties, because that's important as well.
Absolutely.
Dave Levac, Phil McColeman, both, I met with them. They both put letters of support together, as did chambers of commerce, downtown business associations, business improvement area associations, things like that. Different businesses, different individuals. But one of the things that's really important is if anybody ever has an opportunity to take something like a survey, that's actually a really important thing. Now, we get calls all the time about surveys, and we get annoyed by them. This isn't that. When there's a civic engagement piece around, say, budget deliberations or transit or something like that, and somebody says, hey, would you like to take a survey on it? Please do, because it's the only way you get heard. The only other way is to make sure that the folks you're voting for support the ideas that you hope they do around it. So we had a survey for the transit study, 1,100 people who are county residents.
Wow.
Yeah, and when you look at the county, it's a little over 35,000 folks, right? Somewhere between 30 and 40, depending on which year you're looking at. But 1,100 100 people, that's a lot of people to take a survey. And that showed that the need was there. When we first started presenting to county council, a lot of those council members were really against it. This idea, oh, it's an expenditure, I don't understand. Well, there's lots of options on how to fund it, but they had to show that there was a need and that it was feasible. You kind of prove your work, like in math. We did that, and now it's moving on to phase 2, which is the planning of routes before, probably another year or two before we actually start seeing buses, hopefully, that connect the county and the city and other cities and go. But an awesome opportunity for young people.
Now, we've only just got a couple of minutes left because, man, we're jamming through 8 minutes like it's nobody's business. Really quickly, the importance of voting and the importance of being involved, the importance of committing oneself. You did this way back in high school. So there's no, I mean, it's not too early. It's not too soon to get involved.
So for a lot of people, maybe they don't come to voting necessarily from, I'm going to sit back and just look at platforms and talk to people. Maybe they get involved in other ways that lead them to understand that politics is a way to create change. For myself personally, I was in high school, didn't have a car growing up. I went to Assumption College school, and there was no bus route there. All the other high schools in the city had a bus option. They had a bus stop. They were on bus routes, and I thought, you know, this is wrong. I met with lots of other students who said the same thing. We created a survey, went to City Hall. They say you can't fight City Hall. Well, we went to City Hall as a delegation. I was 14 or 15 years old, and then by the next year, every single thing that we had asked for in that delegation, so that's when you go to City Council and speak your piece, every single thing that we had asked for happened. I still talk to students as a prof at Mohawk College, and I say, hey, anybody go to Assumption? My first class with people, yeah, anybody take the bus? Yeah, you're welcome, right? But that shows that, you know, if 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds can fight City Hall and get accommodation, then 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds and whomever else, everybody in between can. So millennials definitely can. But they need to vote. They need to show that they're a voting bloc. They need to show that they're a presence. And when, whether it's councillors, MPPs or MPs, any elected official isn't listening, then they need to know that they're vulnerable to that opinion. That's how the power works, right?
I'm getting told I've got 60 seconds left. If you wanted to dive in, and just say something real quick to the voters, we're trying to hit this home. We have 8 minutes a segment. We're going to do this every week leading up to the provincial election. Can you leave us something with 30 seconds?
Yeah, I just think that young people can't underestimate the power of voting. And you know, you hear all the things about how people have died for it, people have fought for it, absolutely. But if you want to actually exert power, and sometimes that millennial group feels very powerless, this is a way to get it.
Absolutely.
This is a way to get people to listen, to get people to understand that your needs need to be met.
Amazing.
And that's how we get folks to come to the table and serve those needs.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on TV with you again. It's great to be on TV with you, Miles. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to do a whole lot more of this, and we're going to get you to the ballot. We're going to get you to vote. Thank you very much for tuning in.